Hello, everyone. I'm Sabine,
And I'm Savani.
and this is Behind the Byline, but it's a special edition. This summer, we're celebrating 100,000 Hidden Compass readers, and so we have chosen 10 of our stories from around the globe, across our departments, and over the years to republish in a legacy issue. And one of those stories is by award-winning writer and journalism instructor Amanda Castleman. Amanda, thank you for joining us.
You. I'm just so excited that you picked this story for the legacy issue. It's one that's dear to my heart. So thanks.
We love this story so much. For those who are watching, Amanda's story, Love in a Time of Abundance, was published in our time travel department in our spring 2019 issue. In the story, Amanda explores the legacy of the Bushmen of Botswana's Okavango Delta and humanity's most ancient skills, while also probing the nature of personal and cultural grief to find a way forward. Amanda, I am so excited to talk to you about this story because we published this one before we did these conversations. And so I'm excited to talk to you because I want to know what first inspired you to write this story. And I will interrupt and say we see the little friend in the background, and I just want to know if the friend has a name.
Yes, that's Bailey. Bailey has not gotten enough lap time today because I was on deadline earlier. So hopefully he will settle down and not sing quite as much.
Okay, we welcome the addition.
Oh, sorry. So the question was what inspired me
to write the story. Yeah.
Well, I was lucky to be one of the first two journalists that were ever invited to this lodge, which was the first safari lodge actually owned by the Botswanan Bushmen. The other was a photographer from the Seattle PI. Originally, I'd worked with him decades before, and at very short notice, he was like, "Do you want to come with me to Africa to do this project?" And oh my gosh, yes, of course. So it was a really big honor to be the first journalist invited in to share this story about Indigenous-owned tourism. But beyond that, as the story touches on, my partner Doug and I had just been caregivers in two family deaths, his mother and my brother by choice. The travel writer Edward Redeker Henderson, that I know you guys are familiar with since I talk about him quite a bit. And so we just lost Ed. So grief was very much on my mind. And that trip kind of made me think about sort of the lens of personal grief and how that can intersect with collective grief, like what the Bushmen were dealing with because of the changes in their community, forced changes in many cases that have happened like in the span of our Gen X or my Gen X lifetime, certainly. So yeah, it was it's kind of a trope to say that we learn lessons when we're on the road. But I very much felt that watching how this contemporary culture dealt with extreme changes and a lot of loss helped me reframe things and move forward a little bit.
Well, it's such a powerful piece and an evocative piece, and Savani and I were both really excited to choose it for the legacy issue. We had our reasons for doing so. But Amanda, why do you think that spotlighting a piece like this would be important?
I mean, I feel like the emphasis on Indigenous tourism is something the industry as a whole has been really striving towards. I think there's a lot of consumer interest in it. It's also honoring the people that were in a place first and letting them benefit from visitors coming in and bringing money and energy. But beyond that, kind of I felt it was really important not to make it a piece looking back, kind of that trope of the noble savage and what we learn from simpler times, because it's a much more complex story. It was actually their contemporary culture was what sort of taught me things and that I drew strength from. And it's interesting because I mean, the Bushmen actually have a lineage that's common to all of us. I mean, that's the most ancient DNA. At one point in the story, they're kind of teasing me of like, well, this is your heritage too, even if you're like so incredibly pale. And like, I am like extra just pale on pale. But it was kind of funny to think about that, like we're all one family. So I got to kind of go back to where we started and it reset a lot of my thinking. So it was great.
We published this piece in 2019 and it's been a few years. And so how does this story resonate with you now? Has anything changed?
It won a couple of awards. That was nice. But on a personal level, I do think I drew on the strength of this experience, this journey I went on during the peak of the pandemic, when we all suddenly had our worlds upended. And then on a personal level, my partner was unable to eat solid food for about 18 months and doctors just didn't know why. And of course, there was much bigger medical emergencies going on. But it definitely helped to have this lens on sort of how to deal with the personal grief, the grief of my community, the wider grief going on around us. So I think I am glad that I'd had that transformative experience before we went into those hard times, and they definitely helped sustain me, I think, during them.
It is a powerful lens, and I highly recommend reading it or rereading it if you've already read it before. I've read this piece many times, obviously during the editorial process and after publication, and I cry almost every time. So definitely do it. And thank you to everyone who has supported us in getting to this milestone of 100,000 readers. It is really incredible and kind of surreal to be at this place. So thank you for that. And if you want to support us and the work that we do in our direct relationship with Amanda, our partnership with her, you can contribute to the patronage campaign for this story, which we are relaunching in time for the legacy issue. So certainly do that. And thank you for doing that. And Amanda, thank you for coming back to speak with us about this story.
Yeah, no, it's fun. It's fun to get a swing at it, even though I'm a bit on the introverted side of writers that like to, hide in the shadows, but it's good for me. I'm out of my comfort zone.
Thank you for coming out of the shadows and
Exactly. And with that, we'll talk to y'all next time.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye.